Honey, we need to chat.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Honey, We Need
Where's
to
my
Chat.
pants?
Lego. Okay,
Yeah,
I got it.
I had it stuck in my head earlier. As you were starting, I was like, what was I going to say?
Yeah.
Where is my pants? Honey, where's my pants?
Okay.
The
cool.
Lego movie.
It's the Lego movie. Amy's doing the Lego movie, everyone.
Obviously.
But this is the Honey, We Need to Chat podcast.
Yeah.
We are all about communication in a relationship. We believe that when communication dies in a relationship, that's when bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So our goal, our aim, our job here is to bring in topics and circumstances and tools for you guys to help you to navigate through the different struggles that you might be having and communicate through it.
Yeah, we also have a real heart to not just be another voice, another piece of content out there in the universe floating around for people to consume. We really want to be practical and apply practical things or provide practical things that you can apply to your life today, whenever it pops into your head, whenever you're reminded of these episodes. So stick around because we've got the reality check corner at the end as well. And that's just full of little practical, very low maintenance things that you can apply to yourself and to your relationship today, if you like, so that this can kind of break through and not just be something you've heard, but also can be something that's impacting where you are at and where you're at with your partner.
And we're often joined by our golden retriever, Bonnie, who sometimes pulls out cords and cables and things like that. And she's currently rolling over and pulling down the curtain. So
she's literally breaking the curtain. So.
Well, anyway, she's here with us. So today we are talking about, so actually going back, I want to go back. Episode 4, you did a really good episode, a topic on the Gottman Institute Four Horsemen. And then on episode 15 again, we went back to that and we reviewed stonewalling, which was one of those four horsemen. So if you haven't checked out either of those episodes, I recommend going straight to episode 4. It was such a solid episode. We got a lot of write-ins on that actually, on how many people related to those different horsemen. You want to put it, or personalities, or
the things that kill
or
relationships. Four things that kill relationships. Yeah. So
today, what we're going to do, we're going to go dig deeper into those again, and we're going to go into more the silence treatment side of things of stonewalling. Again, a big thing that we've definitely struggled with in the past to some extent, just knowing, well, how do I communicate through that? Or even for myself, I know I've been in situations where it's like, well, I don't know how to communicate this well, so I won't communicate, and I kind of shut down out of protection of not going into an argument. But anyway, we're going to go into some more of those topics, real life stories on navigating through the silent treatment.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of Reddit stories to dive into and kind of apply some of these filters through, these lenses through, and then some practical things to do to try and navigate through them as well. So stick around. We're going to dive into the silent treatment. All of us know what that is. Everyone knows what it is. It's very self-explanatory, but I'm going to just explain it anyway. Basically, the silent treatment is when one partner intentionally withdraws from communication. And there's a number of reasons why people do that, which you've just alluded to. There could be, not wanting to escalate things, your prior experience, how you grew up, or your prior experience within this relationship before, having seen what happened when things escalated. Could be a control thing that people have, manipulative thing. There's so many reasons that go into the silent treatment, but self-explanatory in terms of what it is and how you might see it play out.
Sounds very loud.
Yeah, it's a silent treatment that's extremely loud. Yeah.
I was making a joke, but you just turned it around. No, that's great.
It really is. It speaks very, very loudly. Yeah,
You actually said something a few episodes,
a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
What can you say that again?
I think it was not saying anything says something. It's basically like you might think you're not saying something by being quiet, but you're actually saying something in the quietness. And that's exactly this. You are communicating extremely loudly. And unfortunately, as we will dive into, you don't always, what you're communicating is not always what you're meaning to, or what the other person is picking up is not always where the silent treatment is coming from. So it's a way of communication through silence that is very ineffective. So it is dangerous. It is dangerous for a number of reasons. One is it mimics rejection, and that actually puts our nervous system into fight, flight, or freeze, which I've been learning all about in my coaching. So it's something I've just this week been thinking a lot about. And that really impacts how we function. That puts your body into survival mode, and it actually turns off your prefrontal cortex, which is your logic center, where you make logical, sound, healthy, big picture, creative decisions processing. So when that's shut down, you're in survival mode, just like you would be in a survival situation. Your brain doesn't really know any different. Just because someone's being silent and you are experiencing what you think is rejection, whether it is or not, your brain tricks you into thinking that you're in survival mode and you're going to react out of that. So it's not healthy, to say the least. You can feel unsafe, anxious, emotionally abandoned, a number of other things. It also blocks repair. So conflict isn't the problem. And we've said that on here before as well. I think you mentioned that one time. The argument isn't the problem. The argument isn't, sometimes you need to have the argument in order to get to, in fact, I'm not even going to say sometimes. I think a lot of the time you need to have the discussion, whether that's in an argument form or not. And we so often are avoiding those tense moments, thinking that avoiding it is going to fix it or make it okay. And that's just almost never the case. And this is why silent treatment blocks repair, because it actually just avoids the conflict. The conflict isn't the problem. The disconnection is. And without the conversation, there's no way for you to rebuild trust and move through it. It shifts power. And this is really important, regardless of why you might be doing it. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, you know, I'm doing it because I've seen how things play out when people get really stuck in conversations and it escalates. And I saw it from my parents or whatever is going on for them. Regardless of why you're doing it, it's actually a power play. And it can be really manipulative and quite a yucky shift of power in your relationship. It doesn't keep things equal and loving and kind. It actually takes that power. And especially when it's a repeated behavior, it takes that power from your partner. And it becomes a way that you can control the emotional dynamic. One person can control that. They decide when and if the relationship comes back online. And that's not, again, it's not healthy. And the other thing, which we've already said, is it's often misunderstood. It could be a trauma response, the reasoning that you're doing it, the thing you're trying to communicate through it or trying to avoid communicating through it, the response that you're observing from your partner to your silent treatment. Like there's just a whole mix of misunderstanding that goes into it because it is literally silence. So there's no clarity. It's just a very loud confusion. So it's a big space for misunderstanding, and without change, it breaks connection over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in summary, silent treatment is not healthy. It's not a helpful way to go through disagreements. It plays out for a lot of reasons, and we're going to dive into 2 examples of this, but it's definitely something, which is why Gottman has mentioned it in his 4 Horsemen, that can really erode relationships.
Yeah. And I hear a lot as well from partners about their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, about how they'll try and bring something up and they just shut down, you know. And I think and then I'll have the conversations with the guys a lot, and it's out of those 2 things. It's out of like, I don't know, like I don't know what I think about the situation, and I don't know how to respond because I'm still trying to work out what this is. Or if I do respond, it'll be in a really explosive way, and I don't want to do that. So it's out of this, like, it's kind of like a fear thing, maybe that's too strong of a word, of fear, but it's a caution. It's a protection of like, well, if I just be silent, I can't screw this up. You know? Yeah. And
a way to summarize kind of all of the above is that the silent treatment isn't just silence. Like we've said, it's actually very loud. It's the absence of emotional presence in a moment when a relationship really needs it the most. And over time, that can do more damage than raised voices or messy arguments, disagreements, and escalations, because it tells the other person that you don't matter right now.
Yeah. Whether you
mean to or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to dive into the first Reddit story and just explore how this might play out.
Hey guys, it's a really quick break here. We just wanted to encourage you, if you want to support us in this podcast, please do all the things you always hear about. Like, share, subscribe. It actually goes a very, very long way in supporting us.
This is the why that goes a long way. It's not just because, it makes us feel nice. All of the algorithms that we navigate all the time on the platforms that we use are driven by engagement. And so it's really easy to engage with something that you enjoy and not physically like it or share it or save it or comment or whatever it might be, or subscribe if it's a podcast platform or YouTube or something. Your algorithm works for you because it shows up for you because it knows you like that. But in terms of it boosting that out to other people that might enjoy it, unless it's seeing engagement, it doesn't boost up. So that is why people, whenever you're following creators and they're like, share, subscribe, that's why, because it's a physical note to the platforms that we're using that this is of value and that other people might enjoy it too. So if you're enjoying it, it only takes a second. We really appreciate those engagements because that's what's getting us in front of other people as well. Thanks, guys. So this is titled Advice for Dealing with the Silent Treatment? My girlfriend is upset with me and has been ignoring me for going on 3 days. By ignoring, I mean will not talk, respond, or even look at me. We live together. She knows this is very upsetting for me. I've said it multiple times, which she has ignored. She's upset with me because I forgot something she said and therefore I wasn't listening to her. She said I had to apologize or she would stop talking to me. I apologized, although I wish I hadn't. She still decided to ignore me anyway. I feel like this is a punishment for something so small, even if I was in the wrong, and it's going on for days. Today was my first day doing a new position at my work, and it was very stressful, plus I had to deal with being upset that my girlfriend is ignoring me. I would usually be able to talk to her about this kind of thing, but I can't. I'm so upset by this. I feel so anxious, like I'm going to throw up all the time. It feels so childish and rude to ignore me in this way. What should I do? She won't talk to me. I don't even know how to go about this. She ignores everything I say, even when I say I want to apologize for whatever she's upset about. So 3 days, silence, not even eye contact.
That's a long time. I don't think that's okay. Like I understand it might be something, she's upset about or heard about, but 3 days, I just don't think this is. What I don't like about this is it's all right. She's upset, but there is a punishment here. It's not a actual all right. Let's work through this or whatever else. It's not even. It doesn't even seem like she's trying to work through it herself. It feels like she's just trying to punish. And I don't think that's ever okay. If you're wanting a healthy relationship, you don't punish. You grow together, right? And so I think that's the first red flag in this. It's just complete shutdown.
Intense.
Super intense.
It's definitely living like you're being punished for 3 days as an adult from your partner.
I get this though, because I remember sometimes that you've brought something up with me, you've mentioned a couple of times, and it's frustrating that I haven't, you feel like I haven't listened or something, and vice versa. I'm sure there's been times where I've shared with you about stuff.
Like not leaving things on your side.
Exactly. Don't leave stuff on my side of the bathroom. But we've never been like, okay, I'm going to punish you now over this.
No. So normally we just discuss Reddit stories and we kind of talk about it and workshop it how we would workshop it. This time around, because it's we really have a heart to not just look at it. We don't want to just look at something and make a blanket statement on face value and assume that we have all the information, because these are tiny little stories, glimpses into people's lives. So this time I've actually broken this story down a little bit because I wanted to make sure that we have a well-rounded picture of what could be going on. And I think this is a helpful tool for the person navigating it to do as well. So we've never done the silent treatment in a way like this to punish each other. This is really intense. Like this would be extremely infuriating to live with, very distracting. I can understand what he's saying about, he's just started this role and then he's got this in the back of his head. He's like, my girlfriend's not even looking at me. Not just not responding or not just responding with blunt little words. She's not talking to me, not looking at me. That's super distressing. Yeah. And definitely a really intense stance to make. But I will say, I think people punish other people, whether they're aware of it or not. You want to make them see how much this affects you. While we've never done silent treatment, there definitely have been reactions and that kind of thing that we have chosen, I'm sure. I know I can speak for myself. I've chosen reactions because I want to make it clear, you've done this thing again or whatever. And I want to make you feel that discomfort. I never have gone to this extreme and I will never go to this extreme. But that's, I think, something to just be aware of as we're listening to this story is punishment sounds really intense. Seeing it play out like this, really intense. So it's an opportunity to reflect on how potentially we do hold these things over our partners as well.
Another damaging part about this reaction is like I can put myself in his perspective of, especially, it's not, I can't put ourselves in this perspective because we're married and we've been married for over 10 years now. But if I look at this, they're dating. And if you gave me a 3-day silent treatment, I would be like, are you leaving? Like, are you over with this relationship now?
Are we even together?
Are we even together? Like, what's the go here? But I think that would be in my mind ongoing. I don't think it would be like, oh, now you're talking to me again. We're sweet. I think that's going to build up in my mind of like, was she about to leave at that point? You know, is this going to be, so I'd grow this insecurity in our relationship from then as well. And that's where I feel like punishments, again, I feel like punishments are not a fruitful response. I feel like they're going to bring those insecurities in, or that mistrust in, or you're not safe now. Like I don't know. I don't have that surety in this relationship.
It takes away your safety in your relationship, which is going to erode over time. Like you pointed out, they're dating. So this is a time where you haven't committed your life to somebody for the rest of your life. You are committed in a different type of way, but you're still entering into that. And so it is the time when you're looking at patterns and you're looking at reactions and you're thinking about what's healthy and what is something that's going to, you know, work towards the culture of marriage or a relationship in the long term that I would really like for my relationship in the long term. And this probably is not going to be something that's like, yeah, that sounds good. So it is something to think about. It's something really important to address, and doesn't mean this is like done. It's just like the Gottman Institute has flagged, these things are signposts for patterns that are not going, that will erode relationship over time. So it would be really hard. And the anxiety, like you've said, would start insecurities. It would start anxieties. You would just be like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't know what she's going to do. Is it going to end? When's it going to end? He would feel very powerless because you can't make someone talk to you. Yeah. And you don't want to, you don't want to get to that intensity of trying to like make them talk to you because that's not relationship. So the breakdown that I've added is it's easy for us to look at this and be like, oh, that's really intense. If somebody has a background where they have seen toxic behavior play out, or they've experienced it with themselves, like in relationships previously or in their family, or they have, you know, deep anxieties and insecurities that feed into their reactions, I can understand how someone might get to the point where they're like, I don't know what else to do other than to show him how deeply frustrating this is or how hurtful this was. And he said, you know, I've forgotten something that she said. We don't know what that was. No. What was that thing that he forgot? Was it really important? And is it something she's repeated over and over to him? Yeah. And this is like, are you kidding me? You've forgotten that again. Yeah. And she's kind of at the point where she's like, I don't know what else to try. I've seen this pattern before, so I'm just going to revert right back to that pattern that I've experienced and taken on, which is to just stonewall.
If you get results that way, like, I mean, that could be such that, you know, again, like you said, I've tried everything else. Like, we don't have that history given to us in this conversation, in this write-in. But, if she's getting results in that way, it's just going to feed that, you know? So he's going to take that responsibility at the same time. Yeah. But they've got to have that responsibility for each other of like, cool, well, this is not healthy either way. Like,
from either. Yeah, exactly. The other thing is he said he apologized. So she said, I won't talk to you again until you apologize. And then he apologized. And then he said he wished he hadn't apologized. Yeah. So the question that came to mind for me was like, what was that apology?
Exactly. Because there's the same with me too, because she then continued to give him silent treatment. I'm like, all right, right in my head goes Joey from Friends. I'm sorry.
And then she's like, that's 10 times worse. Worse. Yeah. And just to be clear, none of this exploring the other side is to excuse it, because there's nothing in my mind that excuses this behavior, because it's just not helpful. Even if it was a really serious thing he's done, it's not helpful. But it is, I think it's a really important exercise to stretch our brains into thinking about these things, because people tend not to just wake up and decide they're going to do this. And it seems to me from the story that this is abnormal. Like he hasn't experienced this from her before. So it doesn't seem to be a pattern at this stage. So to me, that just screams, think about what's going on. Like, try and unpack a little bit of maybe what's sitting behind her reaction. Not that that's his to own, but it will help him in terms of navigating that. So she may not have felt like that apology was real. She might have been, it may have been worse. It could have, who knows what it was about or what it inflamed for her. But the apology element was fascinating to me when I saw that there. And then the really important thing, which we talk about all the time, is the curiosity, being curious about what sits behind this for somebody. This would be deeply, deeply hurting. And most people's reaction would be to be very offended, very frustrated, very like, no, I'm not just going to quickly forgive the fact that you stopped speaking to me for 3 days. And I understand that. But a really, really healthy, grounded, well-rounded response would be to address it with curiosity and be like, why does she react this way? and what might have been in her past that may inform these reactions and explore that, which would be easier if she was talking to you.
And again, I could see that we've spoken about this before, is we kind of act out of what we've seen as well. So I wonder if she's seen this response in her parents and so forth too. I'm like, well, that gets results there. So I'm going to try it here. And
so instead of it being something that, I mean, yes, it sits between you because she's put it there.
Yeah.
But I love the idea, especially if it's, you know, the first time they've navigated this, of being able to be like, I really want to know why you feel like this is something that you needed to do, or what was your family like? Like, did your family communicate about these things? And using it as an opportunity to explore her past and just gently, curiously let her open up about why those patterns might be something that she navigates.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not okay. No, I would not be okay if you were doing that. I'd probably be very frustrated, and it would take a lot to get my brain into the space where I could even consider being gently curious about your background.
Let's test it.
But the reality is, we say this as well, what do you want out of a relationship? You should want success for your relationship. And that sometimes means, even in the face of your partner doing something hurtful, you taking a breath and removing yourself from that as much as possible, not denying that it hurt and not addressing it, but just removing your offense to that as much as possible so you can explore it together.
And relationships are hard.
They're so hard.
They're so hard.
They're so layered.
And we want to encourage you, don't survive your relationship, grow in your relationship. You know, there's so much joy, excitement, happiness, adventure that you guys can have together. So don't just survive, but grow.
So his thing was advice for dealing with silent treatment. And then in his story, he's, you know, asking lots of questions. What should I do? What should I do? That kind of thing. So practical tips on how he could navigate this is acknowledging the silence gently, like not going to be like, why are you being so quiet? Even though that's everything, and you would probably be.
And I wonder if it's like you do this out of the quiet time, like not during, because if she's not talking to you already, like you're not going to get much ground like moment. But again, we're looking for that long-term growth, not the immediate change.
And this is one pattern of communication. Everyone has patterns of communications, weaknesses of communication. So you might not navigate silent treatment, but you're never going to be navigating someone with perfect communication. Like we all need to exercise these skills in terms of strengthening how we show up as a partner in order to have a successful relationship. The other thing is avoid chasing and escalating and trying to force it to happen, because you're not responsible for it. And two, it just escalates it. It just makes it harder for it to break, or it will break in a way that's really, really not constructive. And then asking himself what kind of relationship he wants to build. What kind of relationship culture do you want to have? And what is the 5% that you can take ownership of there? Like 5% you can own in this moment of how the relationship's been going and how we can move towards that culture that you want, just so that he doesn't feel powerless in it. He's still in charge of deciding what is okay for him to experience as, and he doesn't have to just be like, oh, well, I'm going to just deal with this always. Like he still gets to say, no, that's not with me. But you need to take time to reflect on what kind of relationship you want. And then you also need to recognize what you can do, what the power you have in that moment, and what you can do in that moment to work towards that culture in your relationship. Cool. That's story one.
Story one.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're just going to take a little break right now. If you've been listening into these episodes and you're like, man, Amy is so full of wisdom, I want to say there's a reason why Amy does most of the leading in these conversations, because she is a lot more full of wisdom than I am.
Is she?
You do well. You do really well.
Thanks, baby.
But you should know that Amy actually does this for a living. Amy, tell us what's going on.
I do indeed. Yes, I am a coach.
You are
a qualified coach. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. I love helping people work through these things. You've heard it in our episodes. This is how we navigate our relationship and our family, having curiosity and exploring these things and figuring out what sits behind them. And so this is the sort of stuff that I get to do with my clients and the women that I'm working with, which is really exciting. So if there is anything that you're feeling a little bit like you just need a bit more clarity in, if you're feeling stretched thin or things are just not feeling like they're clicking right for you, like you're holding a lot of stuff together outside, but inside something's just not functioning, that is something that I would love to explore with you and work through with you in terms of trying to find just a little bit more clarity about what's going on. The tools that I've learned in coaching have been wild and super helpful for us, super helpful for me. Even as I'm helping other women, I am like sitting there in the sessions that I'm saying out of my mouth and I'm remembering a tool that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
And I love watching you in this space as well, because after every one of her sessions with her clients, it's not like I've got through that. It's always like, man, I love this. So this is something that you are actually passionate about. You love this stuff. You love journeying and walking with women through these different areas. If you are interested, reach out, go to honeyweneedtochat.com and get in touch.
Yeah, we can do a free 30-minute clarity call as well. That's always on the table. Not a hard like sell or any kind of difficult manipulative thing. It's just a chat for 30 minutes, going through some stuff.
To see if this will fit for you.
See if it works for you, figuring out where you're at in life and just having a conversation back and forth. So hop onto the website.
Check it out.
Let's have a chat.
Let's do it. Let's get back to the episode.
Cool. All right. Story number 2. What's the difference between the silent treatment, avoiding discussion, and simply needing space? Male 35 and female 33.
I'm going to read along with you on this. I try and keep like eye contact with you or the screen.
There's no need.
I can't do it because I zone out every time. So reading's going to help me.
And Blair likes when he's reading something, he goes,
yeah. So I won't do that. I'm going to move my mic away.
You're actually going to do it, aren't you? Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's the difference between the silent treatment, avoiding discussion, and simply needing space? Blair's making all the noise. I'm struggling to navigate how to build some agreement on rules for when we talk about things or when one of us refuses to talk. I've heard the silent treatment is abusive, but it seems extreme to label someone as an abuser for that. How much talking do we owe our partner? My typical approach to conflict is to talk it out, but sometimes I feel so frustrated and unheard that I don't want to talk at all. Then I end up feeling like I'm being manipulative or sulking. One side of me says, you don't have to talk if you don't want to, and the other side says, you're only doing this to get your way. My wife has more of an avoidant approach to conflict, so she'll always go quiet, so I'm left feeling annoyed at her for not staying to hear me out, and at my own double standard for allowing myself no talking time, but not wanting her to do it. But I do feel her reasons are selfish while mine are a last resort after a constructive approach has failed. She's very happy to deploy, leave me alone, I'm not talking about this, and issues never get resolved. Complicating all of this is that we have a young daughter, so some communication is necessary, and I don't want her to be negatively affected by our squabbles. So this is a question about patterns, how to figure out patterns, and where is the line between what is the silent treatment, just avoiding discussion, or simply just needing some space to communicate before you communicate about it.
And this is, we've definitely gone through this. It's actually fascinating reading this because I'm like, we've had these exact conversations. Yeah. We've spoken in this episode, in this podcast before about one rainy night. And I remember this.
And I wish
Do you remember?
I did.
You still don't remember?
I still don't remember what happened.
I remember. It was one rainy night and we were having an argument. We were in Melbourne before we were married. So we're dating or engaged, and we pulled over to the side of the road because we went for a drive and we got into an argument, and I didn't want to just stop. We had to hash it out because it was quite one of our more heated conversations. And it was really around this. It was around how, you receive information, how I receive information, but then how do we go and navigate through that argument? I'm a lot more of a verbal processor. You're a lot more of an internal processor until we're stressed,
yeah.
And then we flip.
Yeah.
I'm internal, you're external, and it would just drive us insane. But at the same time, I'll be internal, then external. So I would still want to get to the issue. I'd still want to wrestle with it. So we, in our marriage course that we did before, our pre-marriage course, we learned about the need, like some tools essentially. So for you needed a line, and I needed to understand what you needed, which was, we're going to talk about this, but I need time to process it. That helps you give yourself time to process. It helps me to know we're not going to just drop this.
Yeah.
That was a really, really important part of our growing together, was that, all right, cool, we are going to address it. I don't need to stress that we're going to brush this under the rug and it's going to grow and grow and grow and fester. And then that's actually gone into our relationship ever since of, okay, I need to know that we can still address it, and you need to know that you can have that space if you need it.
Basically, anyone can ask for space, and we've done this multiple times in conversations, because you don't always make the best decisions when you're stressed and you're just trying to talk because you need to talk it out. Like you just don't, like people don't, not just you, all of us don't. Like we can find ourselves saying things we don't mean, getting escalated about things we don't mean. And sometimes that's important to just push through in that conversation. And sometimes you do need that break. But I think it's interesting because we've talked about how it feels to receive silent treatment, like actual intentional, really long-term silent treatment. So the 3 days from the other story. It's interesting to think about if you've experienced that growing up or in another relationship, how triggered you might be by someone needing space. And so it is a really important have a conversation to have and to navigate the rules and the boundaries, the lines or whatever you want to call it, because not only can someone revert to the silent treatment because they've seen it or they've experienced, whatever growing up that's then triggered this in them, they can also revert to overbearing or like getting overly anxious when someone needs space before they can talk because they've experienced that before. So I don't know what his experience was when he was growing up, but obviously for him, it's really important to get to the bottom of it. And for her, it does sound like she's a little bit more avoidant. And so it's great. I think it's really good that he's being reflective and he's trying to figure out where those lines sit. And he wants to also, he's recognized and he's put in the story his own mixed approaches and motivations to his approaches and the double standards that he might be feeling. I think that's all really good. It's also a really common thing to feel like, am I being manipulative or do I just need time?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's an interesting question, but I don't think time is bad.
No, I don't think it's bad either. Again, we've needed time, to sit, to process, then come back, right? We do talk about that a bit. But one thing here that I'd challenge myself on, he says at the end here, but I feel her reasons are selfish while mine are as a last resort after a constructive approach has failed. Now, he's now assuming that it's selfish and there's no exploration here, which is what I guess he's kind of doing by putting a Reddit out there. He is exploring this, but he's jumped to the conclusion that she's now being selfish, but there's so many unknowns to her response. And I think if we jump to a conclusion like that, it's going to fuel our view of her or of the other person and the situation rather than be constructive. So rather than saying, I'm not sure if this is a selfish approach from her, or I wonder what else could be fueling that for her. What else could be triggering that for her? Is it out of fear? Is it out of insecurity? Is it out of past trauma? Whatever else. It's just gone down to, no, she's been selfish. I
feel she's being selfish. Yeah. I've got that noted down. So I'm glad you noticed that as well, because assumptions are not helpful. There's sayings for this all, like everyone knows it. They're not helpful and they're not constructive.
They make a bottom out of you and me.
Make a bottom out of you and me. And it's interesting to me, he's been really self-reflective or just reflective of their dynamics and stuff, which is awesome. But that statement is, I feel she's being selfish. And I'm not even sure that he's recognized when he wrote that out how assumptive, that's not a word, but how much of an assuming, that's the word.
I'm so smart.
Assuming that is, like what that is indicating about where his attitude towards her is at and what he could be overlooking. And you're so right. We have no idea why she reacts that way.
Yeah.
And until he's assuming that she's being selfish. So he hasn't explored, it sounds to me at least like he hasn't explored why she does that. He's saying mine are because I'm at the end of my tether and I've tried the constructive things. And so he's explored why he gets to that. And so one really important first step, I think, would be having that conversation with her about where that comes from for her, what she's experienced, why she reacts that way.
And that's something guys can do together. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be like, try and like now dig through that. Like, why is she doing this? Why is she doing that?
Yeah.
It's like, actually, when this is settled down, when you guys are taking that intentional time that we keep talking about, that intentional date night at home, the pretty cafe on YouTube in the background on the TV, when you're doing that, you go through these things. It's like, I want to understand you more. Like this situation that we had, we're now past that. We're in a clearer mind. I want to understand this more. From my perspective, it seems selfish, but I don't want to just jump to that conclusion. I want to know what is going on for you so I can grow more. If we have the attitude of you're more aware of your own reactions or actions, you're going to trigger again. It's just, you're just going to go around in circles. But if you can come from the perspective of I want to actually do better, I want to communicate with you better, I want to understand you better, the focus is back on you, you know what I mean? And I really believe that's a good approach rather than the accusational side of thing, because I can't fix you, Amy. I can't change you. And not that you need a lot of fixing.
I don't need any fixing anyway.
You're pretty much perfect, but I can't do that. The times that I've seen you grow the most is through your own self-reflection and your own growth. But a lot of that happens together as we're doing that together. It hasn't been this solo thing that you're doing. It's been like, I'll bring stuff up, like we talk about it, but that now needs to be done together. It's not I've told you about this, Amy, you now to fix yourself, you need to get yourself under control, whatever else it is. We do that together and we commit together on that growth. And it does get frustrating. We'd still get frustrated over certain stuff. We might have brought it up and it triggers us again and we got to have that conversation again. It's like, all right, cool. I am trying. I am being aware of this. I know I want to do better, but you can't talk to me like that because it just puts me back. It's all part of the conversation.
It's all conversation. And it's another one of those assumptions when even going about it with that attitude of so you can reflect more on yourself is blinding yourself to your ownership in the relationship. And that's exactly it. You cannot control your partner. And the unfortunate sad behind the scenes of this topic is that some people do use this to be very manipulative for very controlling and probably borderline, if not blatantly abusive reasons. Sometimes you've got a relationship where you can come to the table and address these things and you can have that conversation, you can explore and be curious together and see that movement. But they're really at the core of it is you're responsible for yourself and regardless of what your partner decides to bring to the table in your relationship or decides to agree to or be open to, you still need to be able to work on yourself because it's not just about how you're treating them. I think some people are like, well, why would I work on myself if they're not working on their self? It's how you turn up in life is going to affect everything around you. It's not just affecting your partner. It's going to affect your future. It's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your self-esteem. It's going to affect your bitterness. It affects your brain, like we talked about earlier. So it's so important to explore the part that you own in this, regardless of your partner's role. And the moment that we start to be trying to address something in a way that teaches them is kind of the moment that we start to lose sight of what we can be learning through it. So yes, it's extremely tough. I think, as I mentioned as well, there's stuff that we think he potentially could be missing. He's making an assumption about why she's doing things. Like I said, he seems very intent, I should say, on not leaving things, not leaving them unspoken. Potentially his approach to that is quite intense. Quite intense. I
struggle with the exact same thing. Like, again, this is where I was coming to with that story before. I was quite intense of like, I can't let this go. We need to deal with this. And it was not helpful.
And some people receiving that could be extremely triggered depending on how they've experienced life. And so there's a lot of stuff to explore here. There's dynamics at play. And it's a great conversation for one thing. It's actually a really beautiful thing that he's put it up, and I hope that this has informed some of their stuff, but just to be doing it gently and curiously is really important. To clarify a little bit, he does say, what is the difference between silent treatment and just needing space? And so there's a few things that I thought would be good to highlight that maybe this can help you weed through what's just needing space and what's the silent treatment. One is taking space is a stated clear thing. Like I need space. And that's what we've found is really helpful, is having something that's like, okay, they've said their thing. I get what this is. Like, oh, that's that. This is the space that they sometimes need. So making it clear, I need space. A silent treatment is an unspoken, vague, punishing type vibe where it's not something you ever address. It's not something that you come back to. It's not something you can communicate through. It's an unspoken, weird, vague thing. Taking space has a return point. It needs to have a return point. That's something you need to factor into your relationship too. If this is something you're using, that like breather before you come back to conversations, you need to come back to the conversation because taking space and not coming back to the conversation is just avoiding or silent treatment. Whereas the silent treatment withholds the control or escapes. So there's a control element that it doesn't come back. It's like actually taken from the situation. And taking space also prioritizes emotional regulation for the benefit of the relationship. It's so you guys can regulate, calm down, come back to it. And we spoke about this a lot in the Gottman Institute episode about how they did studies on relationships that had a 15-minute break. And it's really interesting to see how much a regulated system changes how you navigate a conversation. So it's actually very important if you're feeling like you can't regulate in that moment. Whereas a silent treatment is avoiding discomfort and it's forcing a power shift. It's not, I need to regulate. It's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. So I'm just actually not even going to do it. And I'm going to take that power from the situation. So those are some things to help you think through. Is it silent treatment? Is it just needing some space? If you're listening to this and you haven't had this conversation in your relationship, it's a good prompting to have that conversation. It's even better if you're not in the middle of it and you've got like a time where you're not actually in a tense situation. Having that conversation is really good because then you've got groundwork to then fall back on if it does come up. So just taking a little moment to kind of talk about what, if you need some space, this is what we can look for, this is what we can say, this is what it could look like, and this is the rules around it so that we both feel safe and heard. Cool.
I like this topic because we've navigated through it. It is one that we can relate to quite a bit from the different ways that we would process. So it's very important to have these conversations. It's very important to identify the needs in each relationship and in each situation, what's each person needing in this time. Yeah. And I think that's another good question to ask when in a heated conversation or a silent treatment conversation, what's needed in this time. Ask yourself about that, the other person, what's needed in this time. And
have them in mind. How can I help them best navigate this as well as myself navigate this? Yeah.
Not for you to carry their stuff, but we want to improve. We want to improve our relationships. We want to improve ourselves. So great. Exactly.
Well, that is silent treatment. As we said, check out episode 4 and 15 as well, because they just add to the situation. All of these frameworks are really important to helping you communicate better because we all have different tendencies, personalities, experiences, triggers, trauma that all play into who we are. We are just a result of everything that's built us. And so the more you navigate these differences, the better. And having differences is not a problem. Like that is normal. And instead of being like, we communicate so differently or we disagree so differently or our conflict approach is just so different and kind of being disheartened by that, use it as an opportunity to actually get stronger and grow because there's so much beauty in figuring that stuff out. So we're going to move into the reality check corner then, just following this. And this is where we want this episode to become something practical that you can grab hold of today and implement into your relationship today. So I've got first a reflection question to just think about. Think about, how do I tend to respond when there's tension, even if it's subtle? Do I move towards, pull away, freeze, perform, or avoid? What might that pattern be trying to protect? So even if you don't think the silent treatment is something that you struggle with or that you've navigated that much, ask this question anyway, just to see how you do respond in tension and how that might be, there might be a pattern going on there and a reaction going on there that you're not always conscious of. And the next one is just a quick challenge. This is an easy challenge you can implement as it comes up. It's not something that takes a lot of work. So just notice this week one moment where there's a flicker of disconnection or discomfort, and instead of reacting or overanalyzing, pause and ask yourself, what would a grounded, healthy connection look like right now in this moment? So this isn't about fixing, guessing, or assuming what's wrong for the other person. And this is something when I was writing this, I was like, I need to do this. It's about gently staying present even when things feel uncomfortable. We very often like to run away from discomfort or fix it. So maybe that might look for you like not asking a question. So for Amy, maybe that means when Blair sighs, don't be like, are you okay? Are you okay?
6 times.
Are you okay? You good?
You sighed half an hour ago. Are you sure you're still okay?
Maybe it's not asking that question. Maybe it means giving a reassuring touch or softening your tone. And maybe it's less about overthinking what the other person is feeling and more about choosing how you want to show up in that discomfort. So through the week, take a moment when you notice there's a disconnection or a discomfort in your relationship, just take a moment to kind of assess and think about how you want to show up in those moments in a healthy way. And now for the future pace, which is a visualization tool that helps us to borrow feelings, thoughts, clarity from the future we'd like to go towards, the goals that we've got, and use them now to help motivate us towards those things. So if you want to, you can just close your eyes while I read this out and try and get really clear on this picture that I'm going to describe for you. So take a moment to close your eyes. Picture a version of yourself in your relationship, calm, steady, and clear. You're able to stay present even when things feel tense or uncertain. You're not rushing to fix it or disappear to avoid. You're grounded in how you want to show up. Now I want you to ask yourself, what is one small habit that I could start now that helps me become this version of me? Maybe it's checking in without over-explaining. Maybe it's giving space without shutting down. And simply staying when you'd usually withdraw. All right, guys.
Cool. That's a good one.
The silent treatment.
Love that. If this resonated with you, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
But also, if you would like to support us in this podcast, please do all the things you always hear about. Like, share, subscribe. It actually goes a very, very long way in supporting us.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Good chat.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.